And now I want to turn to Mark Correnti, who is with the SHINE campaign. He's the Director of Investments, and the SHINE campaign is looking at the energy access and the idea that energy access has to be part of the conversation. So not only do we need to change the goals of the system, but we need to be mindful of access. And you work with investors, you work with the people who are working on the new economy. So speak a little bit about that aspect of your work, and also how challenging it is, or how you're finding reaching the investment group that looks for returns and getting them to focus on other measures of success.
They said there's, am I on? They said there's going to be about 2 rounds of questions, and so very astutely we took both rounds into one question. Very well done. Let me pick up a little bit on what Hindu is talking about in terms of participation. So if you're going to have a just transition, if you're going to have a transition that has dignity for everyone, if you're going to have a transition that allows for participation, I'll get to participation here in a minute, if you're going to have all those, let's have it for everybody. There is 1 billion people on the planet today that do not have access to electricity. That was the old regime. We're now going into the new regime, the new transition, and so let's be thoughtful of those 1 billion. There have, as to the Reverend says, I want to hear about wins. There have been wins. There have been wins to the tune of about 600 million people here in the last decade or so. But those wins are a little bit of the easier wins. The next set of billion are going to be tougher. The game's going to get a lot more difficult, because it's going to be the billion that are in very rural areas. It's going to be the people that are very indigenous in nature. It's going to be the people that are in peri-urban informal settlements. I'll call it what it is, in slums. And that's going to be the next billion that we've got to go out and work with. And we need energy access for all of them. What is this thought of participation? Strangely enough, in energy access world, which maybe a third of you or so maybe are part of, there's been very little measurement on the part of what happens in a household once it receives electricity. What happens to women in the household? And only recently, and this is Gogla about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and another report that was done by Solar Sister about 1.5 years ago, only those 2 reports start to touch on this. And what happens is women's income go up. They go up to the tune of about 60%. 30% of the time it's because they had existing enterprises of their own at home that now they could spend more time on. 30% of the time they started new enterprises. So, but there are the enterprises in the economy that Hindu's talking about. So this is all about fairness. This is all about gender equality when we talk about energy access. Another area is that homework goes up. Does it go up substantially? Yes, it goes up almost 100%. Children are studying twice as long. Young girls are still in school studying. And so this is all about a transition of equality and justice going forward. In terms of the question on the financing, and let me pick up on what Marty was talking about, and she went through a couple of the different investment groups that are out there providing clean energy out there, providing energy access. Well, if this is going to be successful, there has to be a reasonable portion of philanthropic money, blended capital, to make all this happen. And what that does is it allows for those foundations and other organizations, faith-based organizations, to really bring patient capital to the forefront. But what it does also, it brings their voice. Because right now, in the past, the amount of money that has been spent has been very heavy spent from DFI money. And to make this successful, the philanthropic and faith-based communities have to get involved with their dollars. Won't go into the details why. It's all about capital stacks and tranches and all those kinds of things. But it also brings a voice so that we do this the right way, and we do this with a thought towards human rights. So that's just a couple of responses as to what we've heard today.